In the last video, I ended with this fictitious story of someone winning the lottery, not returning to work, and leaving a ventilator unused in a room next to a newborn baby. So the setup then will be something like this. Here's the 4-kilogram baby lying in the hospital here. Here's the 200-kilogram ventilator. And here's Neptune out here in its usual place in the solar system going around the sun. I'm going to say that the ventilator is about 4 meters from the baby, and Neptune is, of course, 4.3 times 10 to the 12th meters away, or about 4.3 trillion meters away. So it's all sort of in there. And Neptune also has a mass here, which I can just look up. So the mass of Neptune then is something like 1 times 10 to the 26 kilograms. So of course the scientific notation tells you how many zeros are after the decimal point for these numbers here. So the mass of Neptune is a 1 with 26 zeros coming after it. I'm not even sure if there's a name for that number, but it's very large. So if you look at all the numbers, the baby and ventilator are very close by and they have small masses. Neptune is very, very, very far away, but it has a very large mass. And remember, these are all of the things that gravity takes into consideration when it starts to wonder, well, what are the forces going to be involved in here? So let's go ahead and calculate them. The first one that I'll calculate here is the force of, let's say, the ventilator on the baby. Let's just see how strong the ventilator's pull is on the baby. And I'll just sort of call that force of ventilator baby. And so we'll just start plugging numbers. G is 6.67 times 10 to the minus 11. Okay. The baby's mass is the 4 kilograms. And of course, the ventilator is 200 kilograms. And as I said, they're 4 meters apart, so that'll be a 4 squared right there. Because remember, it's an inverse squared law, so we have to put a squared in there. So what that means then is the force of the ventilator on the baby is something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3, 3, and the unit of force is a Newton. This is the force that ventilator accidentally left in the room is exerting on the baby when the baby was born. Let's do the same thing now for the force of Neptune on the baby, okay? So it'll be a very similar calculation, 6.67 times 10 to the minus 11. Again, the baby still weighs 4 kilograms. That doesn't change. But because I'm talking about Neptune and not the ventilator now, this is going to be a 1 times 10 to the 26. So a 1 with 26 zeros after it is going to be that number. This is just a shorthand notation, so I don't have to spill out all those zeros. And of course, you're going to divide this now by the distance that Neptune is away, which is 4.3 times 10 to the 12th, that 4.3 trillion meters. But of course, that has to be squared because it's an inverse squared law in gravity, right? So if I do that, then the force of Neptune on the baby comes out to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 4 newtons. And so you just have to stop here. I'll choose a different color and just put up a big old question mark area here. So what? What are the conclusions here? Well, looks like Neptune's force, the force of Neptune on the baby, is less than the force of the ventilator on the baby. It's less. So in other words, boy, what do I do here? If Neptune here is all related to astrology, and you say, oh, the baby was born when Neptune was in the sky. Well, that's great. But the baby was also born when some lucky fool who won the lottery forgot to pull the ventilator out of the room, and it turns out that the ventilator is having more of an influence on the baby than Neptune is, because the ventilator is up into 33 there, and the Neptune is only into the 14. Only up to 14. Do you get my gist here? So in this case here, it seems like the baby is more sort of related to the ventilator than to Neptune. So is there some astrological sign called ventilator Aussie or something like that? I don't know, but I'm just saying that the force of gravity in this case here certainly doesn't support any linkage to Neptune, even given the fact that the ventilator was left accidentally in the room, so it wasn't a planned occurrence. The guy just won the lottery and he didn't show up to work, and that is going to influence the baby more than Neptune does, which is what astrology said should happen. Don't know. Call Comments welcome.